Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and today I thought we'd see what we could do about powering the Amstrad PC up. I've been itching to make a video and actually see whether I can get the thing to fire up, and I've got a bit of time now, so I thought now's the time to do something with it. With that in mind, I've dug. This is actually out of an old Dell blade server that someone gave me. But we've got a ATX power supply here. Now, this won't give us all the voltages we'd actually need for a proper power supply for the computer, but for firing it up, this provides us with a +5 and a +12 volts. We don't actually need the -5 or the -12 volts that the power supply requires to actually get the computer to run. When I first had one of these back in the day, I didn't even know about them other voltage rails. I just give it 5 volts and 12 volts, and that's how I used it for quite a while. But I'll get you over on the bench and we'll go through a few things, because I've printed some bits of paperwork out for it. And it looks like connecting it up to a monitor isn't going to be, it's not going to be as I thought it would be. I'm not going to say it's going to be a lot harder, because it's not really a lot harder, but it's not just a case of making up an adapter cable to go between the DIMM plug on the back of the Amstrad and like a CJ monitor or something like that. It's going to be a little bit more involved than that. This is something actually I didn't realise until I've started going into this and looking at connecting the monitor up to it. Anyway, I'll get you down on the bench here and we'll just go through a few things, and then we'll actually see what we can do with the Amstrad itself. Actually, before we do that, just thinking display wise, I'm actually going to go for this first initial try of the computer right back to how I originally ran my Amstrad when I originally got it, and that's basically with a mono graphics card which I've got in here. I've got a Hercules graphics adapter in here, and an MDA or a mono monitor. This is I actually don't know if that monitor works or not. I've got a couple of the old green screen TTL mono monitors. The one that I would have generally grabbed for this, the one that I actually use with my Zenith 286, it's so buried in the attic it would take me hours and hours and hours to actually dig it out at the moment. This is the one off my IBM 1550. That's a 5152, I believe, display, which I actually got to complete that computer. But I've never actually tried it, believe it or not. I got it in a job lot of computer stuff a few years ago, purely because I needed one to complete my IBM 5150. Like I said, I've not had that computer fired up in probably about 20 years. In fact, it's one that I will get to on the channel, and we will do a video on seeing if we can get that 5150 back up and running again. It did work last time I used it, but I didn't back then have an original monitor for it. That's why I picked that one up. So we'll see if that monitor works in this video as well. Anyway, I'm rambling too much now. I will get us back down on the bench and we'll have a look at this power supply and these pinouts that I've printed out off the web, and we'll take it from there. Right, basically this is that power supply. As I've just said, it was salvaged out of an old Dell blade server. It gives plenty of current out on the 12 volt and 5 volt rails, so that's not going to be an issue. And it's a nice, slimline, neat power supply. So it's a pity actually it doesn't have a -5 and a -12 volt output on it. At least I will have to check the ATX connector there actually, see if we have got -5 and -12 on there. Although I believe one of them they stopped using. I'm not sure actually what voltage I'll have on there, but like I said, we don't need that for the moment. If I could find those voltages, actually, it would make a really nice power supply for this computer, because it's so neat. So basically that's the power supply I'm going to use for testing, and what I've done, I've just made like a test harness up. I don't have the correct DIN connector for the back of the Amstrad. unfortunately, I've looked into it. It's the same connector that's used on Atari ST disk drives, and it is horrendously expensive if you can get it. I think there's one on eBay at the moment with a piece of cable connected to it, and that's like 20 odd quid just for a piece of cable and a connector. I'm not paying that kind of money for a bloody connector. We'll find another solution for the time being. So basically what I've done is I took an old ATX connector off a scrap motherboard, and I've just soldered on for the 12 volts, 5 volts, a ground connection, and then I've connected a remote switch so I can switch the power supply off and on. Obviously you know that it's just the green wire, you ground out the green wire, that turns the power supply on. So that's all done, that's all ready to use. And now, because I don't have that connector, this is a bit naughty, but it will work for the initial testing. Essentially what I've done, I've got some pins. I've just soldered bare pins onto the end of the wires, so obviously we've got 5 volts there with a bit of red heat shrink round it, 12 volts there with a bit of yellow heat shrink round it, 2 grounds with some black heat shrink round them, and these are a nice snug fit for the pins on the actual connector. So we can just push these into the correct pins on the connector, and like I say, it's not ideal, but for this initial power up and test it will actually work. It should allow us to power the computer up, and it's probably a slightly better way of doing it than the way I actually originally had mine powered up with, using that little pin connector on the inside on the motherboard. I'll pull that out of the way. Let's get that out of the way for now. And basically, let me see if I can zoom you in so you can see this a little bit better. Right, there we go. So, can I get you so you can see this? So, about there. Does that work for you? Yeah, I think that works for you. I think you can see that reasonably well. So basically, this is the connector I'm going on about, because it's a 14-pin DIN connector, and it is identical to the disk drive connector on an Atari ST. So, I mean, if I had a spare ST drive cable or something, I could pinch a connector off it, but unfortunately I don't. And I'm not paying £20 odd for one. But what I've got here, basically, this is the full pinout. This is actually someone online that's basically done a lot of the work for us. He's reverse engineered the video side of it as well, which is quite nice. So I've got some bits we can look at for that. Not that I'm going to be doing that in this video, that's for an upcoming video. But it tells us what we really need to know. Basically, 3 and 4 there need 5 volts. Now I'm hoping those two are actually just tied together on the PCB, so I'll do a quick continuity check between 3 and 5. So I think they should be connected together on the PCB, and we can just put 5 volts to one of them. That should work. Our ground pins are pin 2 there and pin 4 there, so that's our ground connections. And I believe it is pin number 9, which is that pin there. No, it's not pin that's so it's pin 11, which is that top pin there. We need to provide with 12 volts DC. So we've also got minus 5 volts and minus 12 volts on them connectors, but we don't actually need them at this moment to get the computer to actually power up. It's basically those 2 voltages are only found on the ISA bus. Some sound cards and I think possibly some other, that basically if a card uses an op amp on it, there's a chance it might use one of those minus voltages. Apart from that, they're not really used. It's not going to stop us getting the actual computer to power up and work. I'll quickly show you the video pinout as well, and this is why we can't quickly just connect it up to a standard CJ monitor. We can't just make an 8-pin DIN connector to a 9-pin D sub like patch lead and connect it up like that and just use a CJ monitor, because although it's a TTL signal, it's RGB TTL signal, it has an intensity pin, same as CJ. it uses composite sync rather than a horizontal and a vertical sync. So we could either split the composite sync, which funnily enough I actually have a board to do. I've got that board off the Hitachi S4000, which actually takes composite sync in and splits it out to a separate H-sync and V-sync. So possibly, yes, we could connect it up to a standard CJ monitor using that might be something to just to play with in the future, just to see whether it'll work or not. But like I said, essentially, this chap has made a circuit to actually get this to work on a standard monitor, and actually using one of those cheap RGB to VGA boards from China. Actually got it running on a VGA monitor. I might go a slightly different way with the video. I've printed out essentially the circuit from the inside of the colour Amstrad monitor, and I'm currently just reverse engineering that, and I'm playing about with how I can basically modify that circuit and get this thing to output onto a slightly different monitor. But like I said, that's all going to be for a different video. For now, I'm going to fire it up like I said, like I actually fired my original Amstrad up back in the 90s, like I said, back when I was a kid. Let me grab my anti-static just for completeness. This is what I am going to use. Now I just let me get you zoomed out a little bit. There we go. Out you come. Right. Basically, this is quite a late. It's probably late 1980s. In fact, I wonder if we've got a date code on it. Let's go look at some of these chips here. We can figure out. Look, yeah, 1988. I thought it would be a late 1980s one. It's got most of the ICs are dated 88, so I can presume that's roughly when this thing was made. It's a late model Hercules and parallel port card. These were very, very, very common. This is actually out of my Zenith 286. I used to have loads and loads of cards like this, and like I said, sad to say, you know, years ago I just dumped the lot. I got rid of so much old computer stuff that I had. It's heartbreaking to think about it now, actually. But I know this card works. It should work fine in the Amstrad. Like I said, I will basically plug this into the Amstrad, connect it up with that monitor, and we will see if we can get something to work. I'll reset the camera and we'll have a bit of a play about and see what we can get to work. So back in a sec. Right, okay, let's get the Amstrad in. Ooh, oops, that was the power supply going for 6, but never mind. Can't do it much harm. Right, there we've got the Amstrad in. And the first thing I want to do is just check the pin out here and just make sure that those two plus 5 volts are indeed connected together. Get a continuity tester. Some nice sharp probes. Because if they're not and they're separate, we're going to have to slightly modify that cable and give it another 5 volts. I suspect that they are just soldered together on the motherboard, and they've just done that for current capacity, current carrying capacity. But like I said, this isn't going to be permanent. This is just going to be a quick test, basically. So we go into that pin there. We'll go into that pin there. Yeah, lovely. So those are indeed connected together. So if we feed power into one of them, that will work. Right. So that is our 5 volts down there. Let me get the power supply we're going to use. So red there, that's our 5 volts. That plugs into that connector there, like that. Now we'll connect our 2 grounds up. I said you won't want to do this permanently, but for a quick test it should be absolutely fine. And then we want to connect our 12 volts up, which is that top one there, like that. So that's basically all the power that we actually need to connect up to this thing to get it to function. Now, I'm probably going to run the computer on its side like that, just so I can make sure that them aren't touching anything and they're still happy. I'm happy with them the way they are now, and it also means I can get to the on-off switch there. I can also get to the disk drive and everything if I need to. Let's pop the top off, and I should really wear my anti-static while I'm messing with these cards. We will put the graphics card in one of these spare slots. I think that's it. I have to say that they don't fit. They don't fit brilliantly, but if I remember, that was quite normal with these. They didn't fit very well. Well, that should be well in. That should be in enough anyway. Right, now we'll get the monitor. Okay, I can take that off now. I'm not touching anything. Sit the monitor on top like that, and that should work. I'll go behind it and I'll plug the video into that video connector. I'll take the slot cover off just so I can get to the damn thing. Bear with me a second, folks. Ugh. That way, I think. That doesn't seem to be fitting on very well. Yeah, I think that's the right way around. Just bear with me a second, folks. I'll just see what I can do about getting this in here, and then I'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and that was a bit of a struggle. I managed to get it in there, but because of the fact the case is plastic and there's like bits of plastic that come down between each slot rather than metal, there's only just enough room to actually get that connector in there, and I actually had to use a screwdriver and screw it into place onto the back of the graphics card just to get it to hold in place. But anyway, that's in. I've got it all connected up. I've just double check and make sure that I've not got any of these wires shorting out or anywhere they shouldn't be, and that seems okay. So I suppose the first thing we better do is put some power up this monitor, which, like I said, I don't know when this monitor was last powered up. This could go bang, this could go pop, this could let out the magic smoke, we don't know. There's only one real way to find out, and that is to put some power up it. Well, it doesn't seem to have released the magic smoke. I don't really know if we'll get a raster or anything on screen. Don't think we will actually with it just dormant like that, but it's not let anything out. We will connect this power supply up next. Now I do know this power supply works. I have tested it and I have checked the voltages coming out of it. It will make a bit of a scream when I first power it up. That's just by this kind of power supply. Basically, it is an old service power supply. Right, so we're ready now to flick the switch and see if we actually get any activity out of this computer at all. I'll connect a keyboard up to it as well. Oh, one thing I'll say as well, a viewer pointed out, and it is something I'd completely forgotten. I actually misspoke. The mouse doesn't connect to the back of the keyboard there. That port there is actually for an Atari style joystick. The mouse actually connects to this little connector next to the keyboard port on the computer there. Anyway, right, we're ready to see if this is actually going to do anything, so I'll switch on and let's see. well, I heard, I'll switch back off again. I heard a pop from the, a little click from the speaker, and the power supply seemed to cut out. Let's just quickly try that again. Yeah. That's not good. The power supply basically gave one little twitch like that. Everything seems to be connected there. Okay, I said the power supply seemed to give one little twitch. I heard a click from the speaker, and that was it. Did you see anything on the keyboard? Did you get any keyboard flashes? No, exactly the same. Are we getting any activity from the LEDs when it does that? No. So we're not getting any power LEDs. Disconnect the keyboard. What I will do, I will take the monitor, the graphics card and everything out, and we'll just see whether the actual unit will fire up then. So back in a sec. Right, okay, we've got the monitor disconnected, we've got the Hercules card back out, so let's see if that's actually going to make any difference. So let's try powering it up again, and it's exactly the same. Let's just try. I'm just putting it in the other of the connectors that it said 5 volts to. Nope, exactly the same. And we know both those connections are connected together internally anyway. Let's try disconnecting the hard drive and the floppy drive. In fact, let's pull the hard drive's card out. So we'll go with like the absolute bare minimum configuration for this. Because the seller did say that hard drive's iffy. Has it in fact, you know, failed completely, and that is what's pulling one of the power rails down? If not, then we're going to have to go into this thing a little bit more in depth by the look of it. So that's everything disconnected. That's the hard drive disconnected. That's the floppy drive disconnected. Let's see if it's got any more activity. And nope. All we are getting is a click from the speaker, so it's obviously getting power, but nothing is firing up at all. My wires are in the right place there, so I can't see why that would cause an issue. I suppose we could try powering it up the way that I did with my original one. Which was basically that little header inside there. What's that? In fact, let's get the top off this thing. It'll make life easier for us. I'll turn my heater down as well because I'm cooking. Let's get the right screwdriver. Now that's the wrong screw, I know that for a fact, because them 3 screws should be great big long things like these. So I'll have to see if I can find something I can replace them with. Right, let's see if that will, there we go. Have to be super careful, there we are. I don't want to damage the, damage any of the plastic. This plastic will be incredibly fragile now. Right, there we go, that's out. We'll disconnect the battery connector there. That can go out of the way. Now where where does that lead go? Pull that out of the way, because that's connected to the 12 volt there. So what's that powering? I don't remember that. Let's take this hard drive completely out of here. In fact, let's pretty much strip this thing down so we can get down to the bare board and we can have a proper look at it. I think this is going to turn into a slightly more in-depth video than I was originally planning on doing with this, but never mind about that, it should be interesting. Oops, that one out. Yeah, it was only held in with 2. Ah! Right. We have an aftermarket fan there. Let's get the hard drive out of the way. I don't think that is original. In fact, I'm pretty sure that is not original. Let's pull that out of the way for the moment. I believe this is quite an early board as well. This is an earlier version than the version that I had. I know that because it uses these 2 banks of DRAM to expand it to 640k, as where mine used 4 larger chips, 4 256k chips I think it was, as where this uses 2 banks of 256k by 8. I think that's right, I might be wrong there, but it's certainly different to the one that I used to have. I'm wondering whether we can actually just feed it some voltage in there and see if that makes any difference, see if we can actually get anything to come on if we do that. I will get a connector which will fit that pin header there, and we will we'll try and feed some voltage in that way and see if that makes any difference at all. So back in a sec. Right, okay, I've swapped to a different ATX power supply here, one with standard PC power connectors on it. And I'm actually using the adapter from the floppy drive to feed 5 volts and 12 volts into that edge connector there. This, like I said, this is the way I originally powered my first Amstrad up actually. So that's done there. I can still use the remote switch I've got here to actually switch the power supply on. So we'll connect this up and we'll see if this makes any difference at all. Hopefully we can get the front light to come on at the very least. In fact, we can move that around so you can see the front light, because at the moment we've not even had the front light coming on. If this doesn't come on now, we may actually have a fault with this motherboard, and it could get very interesting for us. Right, so let's see if we get any more progress now. So I'll switch on again. Aha! We've actually got a power light this time. Right, I'll switch off, and we've got a pop from the speaker, but not much else. I wonder if in this rather janky configuration we could actually connect this thing up to a to the monitor and put the front back on. I won't put the I'll put the front down there so you can get access to it. How am I going to balance the monitor? Can I get the monitor to perhaps balance on there? Or I could put the monitor next to it. Now let's move my tools out of the way. And we'll get the hard drive and its controller card out of harm's way, so we don't want anything to happen to them. So we'll try them once we've actually got something firing up. Move these bits of plastic out of the way so that, again, I don't want to damage there. There's the screw that we lost. Let me pick him back up. I get the impression as well that this thing had a hell of a lot of corrosion on it. So this has been through the hands of a dealer, and I have a feeling he's done a bit of tightening up to this. This shield here, this has been resprayed. You can see all the pitting on it where it's been really badly corroded. So this thing was obviously kept somewhere very, very damp at some point in its life. Which unfortunately is the story with a lot of these computers that we're trying to get back to life. Right. In fact, I could use my toolbox. Put my toolbox there. I could use that as a monitor stand, couldn't I? So I will get the monitor. We'll sit the monitor up there like that, and you might even be able to see that. Hopefully you can see that as well as me being able to see it. And hopefully it's good. Perhaps that's all being if there's enough. We're going to have to turn. In fact, we can do now because we're not as worried about things shorting out. We'll turn the system the right way round so we can actually see it. All we've got to make sure is that that connector there stays connected. So that's basically how we're powering it. We will get the Hercules card. We'll plug that in. We'll plug it into this first slot here. So they never ever fit very nicely in these Amstrads. You have to modify the shielding actually to get them to fit properly. We'll connect the video up to that. Hopefully that's going to stay in this time. We'll connect some power up to the monitor. Now where's the other IEC lead gone? There it is. That's the monitor's got power. We'll plug a keyboard back in. Now we haven't got any disk drives or anything connected up at the moment. So we're not going to be able to boot, but hopefully we might be able to get something to come up on screen. Is that going in there? That doesn't feel right. Oh yeah, that's in. Right, that's connected. So, all being well, that should... In fact, we don't even need that. Although it does make that a little bit... I just thought we've got an actual... Oh, that's longer. So, we could plug that back into the disk drive and power the disk drive straight off the... Just make sure we get that the right way around. Obviously the connector on the board isn't keyed, so we could easily plug that in the wrong way round and blow the motherboard up. So it's 5 volts, so it's that way around we need it, like that. So that's power to the board, which like I said we could actually, if I can get to it, connect the disk drive back up. Let's see if I can get in here to do this. Although that's going to be a pain actually. We won't bother about that for this initial power up because it's going to be a pain. I'm going to have to actually take the disk drive probably out because the previous person working on this hadn't actually bothered to connect the floppy drive cable back up unless they was booting it off an external drive. I'm not sure. Right, let's see if we've got any more progress anyway. So I'll switch back on. Well, at the very least we've got progresses in the power lights now on. We've got anything coming up on screen? No. But that's a good sign. That shows that I think at least the monitor is the monitor's working. switch on again. Because we don't appear to be getting anything out of it, but the monitor is definitely seeing a signal from the computer, otherwise it wouldn't collapse like that if we switch off again. Right. Believe it or not, that is a little bit of progress. That does mean that the computer is not completely dead. We try a different ISA slot. It shouldn't make any difference, but that does actually fit in that slot a little bit better. Let's switch back on. The only thing else is I'm not getting any flashing on the numlock key on the keyboard, which I'd expect to be getting. In fact, although some of these keys are basically sticking. Ah! Look! Right, we're not dead. It's obviously not happy, but we're not dead. We actually have a flashing cursor on the screen. Doesn't seem to respond, but then again, I don't know whether this keyboard is working. It is the correct keyboard for the computer. Let's switch off again. But that's nice to know. At least we know that that IBM monitor actually works. It's definitely the correct connection. It's the correct keyboard. I think that next to it should be the volume control. Unfortunately, it's missing the knob that you adjust it with. Let's give it one more quick try. Where's my switch? There's my switch. Let's see what comes up on screen, and we'll just get that cursor. I'm not even getting that cursor now. Oh, there it is. There it goes. Right, I don't even think it's going to get to the point of trying to boot, but what I will do, I'll just quickly pause, I'll pull the disk drive out, I'll actually get the cables reconnected up to the disk drive, and we will we'll see if we can get any further on, but at least we know now it is not dead. We've not got a keyboard working, but we do actually have a flashing cursor on the screen. So, like I said, it is not completely, it's not completely dead anyway. So, back in a sec. Right, okay, I've got the floppy drive connected back up. I have actually just given it a quick test, and look what we're getting now. So, if I switch on, now it will sit and think for a while. Don't know if it's counting its RAM up while it's doing this or what, but we actually saw, we actually get drive activity. Now I'm hoping if I was to actually put a boot disk in, this thing might actually boot. I've got a disk. Is it going to boot? I think it's thinking about it. Now that's albeit that this floppy drive actually works. We don't even know whether this floppy drive actually works yet. This has got a copy of DOS, I think it's like 2.11 or DOS 3.3 or something like that on it, so it should be able to boot that. Let's try doing a Control-Alt-Delete. Again, I don't know whether any of these keys on this keyboard actually really do anything. Let's try giving it a reset. We'll leave the boot disk in and we'll see if it'll possibly just try and boot from it again. We could have a bad disk drive, so that could be one of the things we are going to have to actually look into on this. Yeah, I don't think that disk drive's working. I can't actually hear it attempting to boot or do anything off it. It's obviously trying to seek it, but it could be that that floppy drive is completely gummed up. In fact, I wonder, have I got... I don't think that works. I think that one works alright. I've just got a random floppy drive here, literally one out of the drawer. I mean, this is obviously going to be 1.44 meg variety, but it shouldn't matter actually, because we're only going to be trying to boot a 720k disc from it. Just as a quick play about, let's just see. Well, we don't need to. Oh yes, we will need to unhook that, because we'll need that connector. Oh, hang on, there's a ground here that's loose. The ground that's pulled out of this connector here. Let me just push that ground back in. Just in case. And let's give it one last quick try before we dismiss it. Because a disconnected ground like that could cause a problem. Are you going to attempt to boot? No. No, so I think we are going to have a look at that floppy drive. Let's just quickly see if this other drive's going to... I don't even know whether this drive... Well, I think this drive works actually. I think I've already tested this this floppy drive and it does actually work. So we'll disconnect that. We'll disconnect the ribbon cable gently. So we don't want to pull it off. There we go. And we'll try connecting it up to this random floppy drive. Let's give that a quick try. Is it even going to try? There we go. Ah. Well, it does at least sound like it's trying to read the disc. More so than the one we've just tried it. I don't know if it's actually going to actually boot from it. But I did at least hear some head movement on that time. In fact, just bear with me a sec. I'm just going to go and look through my collection of disk drives and just find a known good working disk drive, and we'll quickly try that and see if that will make any improvements. So, back in a sec. Okay, I've dug out another floppy drive. Again, Unfortunately, a lot of my stuff is stuck up in the attic at the moment, and my box with all my tested floppy drives is up there. This is a bit of a weird one. It's a really strange floppy drive, this actually. It's actually got a SCSI interface on the bottom of it, and it can interface with SCSI. I've got that disconnected, and I've just got it literally connected up as a standard floppy drive. And this is the best we've had so far. If I switch on now, and again we let it boot up, again we get beep beep beep, we've got our cursor on the screen, and if you listen, it actually seems to be attempting to load the operating system. Now it'll stop here if I hit enter, and it'll go through the same thing again, but I don't get anything else on the screen apart from that one little flashing cursor up there. But yeah, you can just see where I'm pointing to there, can't you? Now, why is there something niggling in the back of my mind that I had some issue like this when I originally messed with mine, and there was something I had to do on the board, or I had to put the card in a different. There was something. I'm sure I had an issue like this previously when I first tried to do this. Let's just quickly try the card in a different slot. I don't think that's going to make any difference, but we shall see. In fact, I want to put it in this slot anyway, because I want to just quickly try as a last thing reconnecting the hard drive up and seeing if it actually has any life in it at all, and then we'll probably leave this video there, and we'll come back to this when I've done a little bit more thinking about it, and possibly come up with something so we can actually try a different monitor apart from this, so we can actually use the internal graphics. That is working there. But it is, like I say, it's not getting any further. It's basically just getting to that point exactly like it was before. I'll just quickly pause the video. I'm just going to try connecting the hard drive up. I don't expect it to boot, but we can see what it does anyway. So back in a sec. Right, okay, I've got everything connected back up. I've got the controller card in there. Obviously I've got the Hercules card there. I'm powering the hard drive directly off the power supply there, so it's not going through the motherboard. Same with the disk drive, they're being powered directly off the power supply. And obviously we've done that little bodge to get some 5V and 12V onto the main board. So let's see if we get any life out of it at all. Well, the hard drive's powered up. That's at least one thing, that's one good sign. That's actually a really quiet. Well, that didn't last very long. I think the hard drive's basically just died. Yeah, that's no longer spinning. We've just got the hard drive light on full. It is not spinning at all. Just make sure all its connections are in. That's one of the sad things with these old hard drives. They are failing at an alarming rate now. Like I said, fortunately, I do have a hard drive we could actually use in this, so I'm not too worried about that. Although that's a weird. Well, the stepper's going. It's seeking. It's continued to spin this time. Bloody hell. I think the hard drive's actually booted, but we're not getting anything apart from that damn cursor on the screen. I'm sure we've got to disable the onboard graphics, and then that will the Hercules graphics will start working. But I think that hard drive actually worked then. Let's just try something. Yeah. We're getting hard drive activity. We've just got no graphics. Just bear with me a minute, folks. I've got to see if I can just figure out a way we can get this monitor to work, because that's actually fired up. Let's just try. See, I can't see what I'm doing, but so that's switched to A. It's trying to read from A. Let's go back to C. Let's stay on A. Let's try C, colon, enter. See, I don't know what keys are, whether the C key is actually working on the keyboard. That's one of the problems. I don't know how many of the keys are actually working. I'll switch off. Just bear with me. I think I'm going to have to do a little bit of reading and see if there's a jumper I can find on the main board to actually disable the onboard graphics. So back in a sec. Right, okay. Well, basically I've done some research, and it looks, unfortunately, like on the earlier PC1512s, you couldn't actually disable the onboard graphics. You stuck with them. On the 1640s and on the later 1512, which is what I had, mine was the later version than this one. I know you could, because I'm going back into my mind, I think that's what I had to do on my original one, was to set a jumper, a dip switch or something, and disable the onboard video before I could get the Hercules card to actually work. Apparently the earlier versions of the 1512 didn't have that option. You just stuck with the standard video output on it, which poses a problem. Basically it means I cannot do what I'm doing here to try and get this to work. We'll just get that one cursor on the screen. But I mean, all is not lost. We've proved that basically the computer is working. Even though we didn't see it on the screen, I'm pretty sure it booted from the hard drive, which is really, really nice to see. I don't think the floppy drive is working. We couldn't seem to get it to boot from floppy, but that's something we can look at when we actually get a display working on this thing. And I think that's what we're going to do in the next video on this. I'm going to put the computer back together. And in the next video, we're actually going to look at getting the video card in the computer to actually give us our video output. And we're going to see if we can actually get this thing to work and actually display an image on a screen. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. Like I said, I know it's a bit disappointing we didn't actually see the computer boot proper in this video, but at least we've actually seen that it has got life to it. It's certainly making all the right noises. I'm pretty certain that that hard drive did in fact boot, because when I was typing on the keyboard, I was getting hard drive activity for, you know, changing drive letters and things like that, typing dir, and the hard drive had access. So like I said, I'm pretty sure that is actually working. We've also proved rather nicely that my 5152 monitor actually works, which is nice, because like I said, I didn't even know that. I suspected it did work, because everything else pretty much that I got from that lot was in really, really good condition. It had all belonged to someone that was in education their entire life. You know, like I said, I don't think it was kept anywhere nasty, unlike this. This has obviously been kept somewhere very, very damp. Like I said, someone's done a bit of a spruce up to sell this thing by the look of it. The shield over the motherboard's obviously been horrendously rough at some point, very, very rusty, and it looks like it's just been blown over with some silver spray paint to tighten it up a bit. A bit disappointing. I'd rather people just left them as they were, to be honest, when I'm buying stuff. I don't like to really see other people's tightening up to sell them. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now, and then, like I say, in the next video we'll actually look at, it would be nice to get a better solution for powering this thing up. I'll have to think about that, because I don't really want to have it with just loads of wires hanging out the back. But yet again, I don't want to spend £20 odd on a plug. That's halfway to buying a monitor for one of these things. I keep looking out on eBay for even the mono version, just one of the original monitors, but I'm not paying £50 for a soldered scene mono monitor plus postage. Like I say, I'm not going to spend £20 odd on just a connector either. There are other ways and means how we can actually get this computer fully up and running and working. Like I said, I'm going to leave it there for now because I'm rambling now. So I hope you enjoyed this little video on the project. Thanks for watching and goodbye.